there are people that will try to embarrass you. Remember, I warned you, there were people that will try to embarrass you. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Sinead and I'm back with another video. So as you can tell by the title, I am going to review my third year of medicine. If you don't know me, I'm Sinead. I'm a fourth year medical student and I make videos about navigating med school and just life as a uni student in general. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and like this video, and then don't forget to comment any questions that you have. So with that being said, let's get straight into it. So before we begin, I'll quickly touch on the structure of third year. So at most medical schools, third year is when you start your clinical placements. So for this year, I've mainly been at the hospital, but I've also been at a GP for a couple of days, and then I also had a school placement for a week. Outside of that, I had a couple days at university where we were doing like other modules and projects and stuff. I'm not going to go into detail about all the topics and all the hospitals that I was based at this year because I feel like that would just make the video so long. So I'm just going to talk in general about how I found it and just adjusting to the structure of third year. So overall, I'd say that I enjoyed third year more than preclinical years. I feel like once you get to your clinical years, you actually get to see the medicine that we study, and it's not just you like sitting in lectures and seminars all day. So in terms of like the application of what I'm learning, like it's a lot better, and you actually get to interact with patients and just see things going on in the hospital. So the responsibilities as a medical student were mainly just to obviously learn the content, but then also to get your skills done, for example taking bloods, doing blood pressure, etc., and then also performing physical examinations on patients. So in terms of the topics that we studied this year, I wouldn't say that I loved any of them in particular. Like I just enjoyed learning about them and like seeing them in the hospital, but one bit that I did really enjoy was I had a radiology placement at the very end of the year, which was more of like a chosen thing, so we could choose which specialties that we wanted to go into and then hopefully get one of our top 5. So I did have a radiology placement, which was good for me, but in terms of like all of the core topics that we studied, it wasn't anything that was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so in love with this. Fourth year is when I actually get to experience some of the specialties that I'm interested in, like psychiatry, for example. That's going to be my first block in fourth year. I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit tricky at the beginning of the year in terms of learning the content, because even though I did have lectures from like teaching fellows at some of the hospitals, a lot of the learning is quite independent. I'd say your time management in third year has to be really good, because otherwise you might get to a couple weeks before the exams and you still got a whole bunch of content to cover. Luckily that didn't happen to me, but it can happen. One thing I did struggle with in particular was the commute into placement. So I did get 1 or 2 far ones and it was just a lot. Like they were over an hour away. Like sometimes it would take me close to an hour and a half just to get to or from placement, and it was just really draining. So there were a lot of points in the semester where I was just really tired simply from commuting. So depending on the rotation, for example, if it's surgery, you might need to be at the hospital by 8 AM, and say for example you're taking public transport, that means you're gonna need to leave by like 6:30 if you want to get there in good time. And Birmingham public transport is not that great. I've already spoken about this in my first year review, but I just don't like Birmingham public transport. If you have a car, then that's definitely an advantage in clinical years, but if you can get a ride from someone, then that's just as good. The only thing I say is that if you're getting a ride from someone, then obviously you have to follow the driver's time, so you got to leave when the driver wants to leave. Whereas when I was traveling by myself, it was like I just chose the time that I wanted to get to placement and leave. So there's pros and cons to both, but yeah, Birmingham public transport I would not recommend at all. But outside of the commuting, placement itself actually wasn't that bad. I actually did enjoy being able to speak to patients and interact with them, do skills. It was a bit nerve-wracking at first, like I'm not even gonna lie to you, I was so nervous to do bloods and to do cannulas. I did them in the end, so honestly it gets better with practice and with experience. One thing that I did want to touch on that I did notice in placement is overall a lot of med students are very helpful and very supportive, But there are a couple of medical students who are very, very competitive and they will try and make you look bad. I'm not going to go into detail about any of my own experiences because I feel like that would just be kind of messy. But what I will say is, if there's anything you need to know for your rotation, so if you need to know about specific conditions, management, etc., know it well, because there are people that will try to embarrass you. Remember, I warned you, there were people that will try to embarrass you in front of like consultants and other doctors or just other like medical students in general. So I'm just gonna say that, but it's not the majority of medical students. Like the majority are really chill. So that's enough about placement. Next, I'm going to talk about exams. Unlike preclinical years where we had exams after Christmas and in summer, this year we only had exams in the summer. So it was really nice being able to just enjoy my Christmas break. Because I've done plenty of multiple choice examinations in preclinical years, I'll mainly just talk about the OSCEs. So I'm not gonna lie, I was quite nervous at the beginning of the year, like when I learned about, you know, the OSCEs and what it includes. I can be quite shy, and you obviously have to perform an examination or take history like in front of an examiner on like a real actor, I would say. So it can be a bit nerve-wracking, but by the time that I had actually got to the exam, like it just felt really natural. By the time you need to do your OSCEs, you would have practice taking histories and doing examinations and talking through conditions like plenty of times. So it's honestly just you being able to demonstrate what you've learned and show that you know how to elicit a history or perform an examination. For histories, I did struggle with coming to differential diagnoses, but again, like with practice I just got better. So that's all I can say for the OSCEs, like just keep practicing. And then one thing I did struggle with was timing. Like I did have a gastro exam for one of my stations and I didn't finish it because the time just goes so quick. So when you do come to study for your exams, make sure you practice with a shorter time. So I think it's like 8 minutes you get given for the examinations or just the stations in general. So try and practice with like 6. That will help you like get used to doing it quick. So yeah, that was the exams. Overall, the multiple choice exam was fine as well. Like I literally just did pass med, did Anki for that. I won't focus this video too much on like exam advice. I'll probably save that for another one. But yeah, overall it wasn't too bad. So moving on to my social life. So I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I actually did neglect my social life in the first semester specifically. Like my friends were literally asking like, has anyone seen Sinead? Like I was MIA, guys. I think for me it just took me a bit longer to get used to the routine of placement and like structuring my days and stuff, you know, in terms of balancing work and gym and all that stuff. So it was a bit tricky in the beginning, but obviously it got better with time. I'd say another thing that contributed to my disappearance was the fact that a lot of my friends weren't placed at the same hospitals as me, and I also didn't live with them because I lived on my own this year. So it just required a lot more effort to actually see my friends and like go out with them. So if there's one thing that I would do differently, it is definitely put more effort into like seeing people, because it can become very isolating when you're just at placement, then work, then gym. Like that was basically my life. Definitely put effort into seeing your friends and going out, and like schedule the outings into all of your calendars and stuff. So in terms of wider university life, I actually didn't take part in many societies this year. I find that third years don't normally go to societies much, aside from like if you study a healthcare course, and then most people will go to like medsoc societies. I think I'm mainly going to join societies that are focused on my career. So for example, I'm going to be one of the vice presidents for the Psychiatry Society in 4th year. So it's mainly going to be stuff that's going to help me build my professional CV. So I got asked a question about how I manage my mental health in med school and if there's any hobbies or extracurriculars that I do. So I do have a couple of hobbies. My main one is art. So I do like to paint and draw, but I will say that I haven't had much time to do it recently. Like I just haven't devoted as much time to it. So that's definitely one of my hobbies that helps my mental health, but obviously I don't get to do it as much, so it doesn't get to have the same effect. During the semester, I mainly go to the gym. So I go to the gym 3 times a week, but I will say that even that can sometimes get a bit overwhelming because I do have specific goals for for the gym, and obviously trying to devote enough time to meet those goals, and then also focus on my studies, and then also work, it can be a bit much at times. So yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I did experience burnout a couple times during the year. Coming out of that, I know how to manage it a bit better and how to not overwork myself. I think also because my schedule's different now, I kind of have to go to the gym in the evenings, whereas when I was in preclinical years, I would kind of just go anytime I wanted, like in between my lectures and stuff. It would always be off peak times, whereas now I kind of have to go in the evening or very early in the morning, which I'm never able to wake up early enough for. So that can also contribute to feeling overwhelmed and like feeling really tired. So but overall, I was definitely in a better headspace than I was in second year. I definitely get really stressed during exam season, but I think that's unavoidable. During the semester, when I would feel myself getting like stressed or like really burnt out, I would essentially just take a day off where I could, or I'd go home for the weekend, or I'd just do simple things like have a movie night or try and see my friends or something like that. I think obviously managing your mental health isn't a one size fits all. So what I'd say is just find the things that you enjoy and then just try and have as many low effort things on standby. Because obviously when you're at medical school, like studying itself is a lot of effort, so when you want to relax, you don't want it to have to require a lot of work, if that makes sense. I'd say always have something to look forward to as well, so either at the end of the semester or during the holidays, etc. If you have something to look forward to, then it just helps you to keep going until you reach that point. So yeah, I haven't had a lot of time for my hobbies, but I have been able to manage my mental health in other ways, so I do hope that helps. Okay guys, so that is my very condensed review of third year. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to me talk, and if there's anything that I haven't covered and you want to hear from me about, then definitely comment and I'll get back to you. If you are going into your clinical years, then I hope what I've said hasn't worried you too much. Like, you will honestly be fine. I enjoyed it way more than second year. Like, second year was literally in the trenches compared to third year, so you will like it way more. If you don't, then I'm sorry, but I guarantee you will. So with that being said guys, if you liked this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and as I said, comment any questions that you have, and don't forget to subscribe so you can see more of my videos in the future. So with that being said, I'll see you guys in my next one.